The let them theory isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a revolutionary psychological framework presented by Mel Robbins in her insightful and widely acclaimed best-selling book, designed to reclaim your emotional peace, enhance your relationships, and fundamentally transform your approach to life's inevitable uncertainties. Originating from a viral Instagram post by Mel Robbins that garnered over 14 million views in a single week, this deceptively simple concept addresses one of the most pervasive human struggles: the insatiable, often unconscious, desire to control people, situations, and outcomes that are inherently beyond our grasp. It's a game changer because it directly confronts the pervasive anxiety, deep-seated frustration, and profound emotional exhaustion that stem from our relentless, often futile efforts to force reality to conform to our meticulously crafted expectations. At its core, the let them theory is an invitation to radical acceptance. This isn't merely passive resignation or indifference, it's a profound, active realization and conscious choice. It's the understanding that when you genuinely release your white-knuckled grip on what you cannot in truth control, be it another person's actions, a complex situation's unfolding, or even your own incessant thoughts, you simultaneously liberate an immense reservoir of mental and emotional energy. This newfound energy, previously squandered on futile attempts at external manipulation, can then be consciously and productively redirected towards your own well-being, personal growth, and pursuit of authentic happiness. The central tenet is straightforward yet profoundly impactful. If someone or something is not showing up how you explicitly need them to, or if a situation is stubbornly refusing to unfold precisely as you desire, instead of expending vast, precious amounts of time, energy, and emotional capital trying to manipulate, persuade, coerce, or control it, simply let them. Let them be themselves with all their quirks, choices, and autonomy. Let the situation unfold organically according to its own complex conditions. This act of letting go, far from being a sign of weakness or apathy, is instead a powerful, active, and deeply empowering choice that fundamentally shifts your locus of control from a futile external battle to a potent and infinitely more effective internal agency. The immediate and profound impact of embracing the let them theory is a palpable sense of detachment from struggle. Mel Robbins vividly illustrates this with a deeply personal and highly relatable anecdote concerning her son, Oakley's prom. Coming from a highly structured, meticulously planned suburban environment, Robbins instinctively tried to micromanage and control the chaotic, rain-soaked pre-prom dinner plans for a group of free-spirited teenagers who casually suggested a tiny, fast-casual taco joint. Her internal controlling nature, a deeply ingrained habit, instantly kicked into high gear, fueled by her own anxiety, her ingrained belief in orderly processes, and an almost obsessive desire for things to be just so. She felt the familiar rush of adrenaline and the tightening of tension as she attempted to impose her expectations onto the unfolding scene. However, her daughter's simple yet profoundly powerful statement, uttered with a calm clarity, "Mom, if they want to go to Avocado Pit, let them," acted as a pivotal, almost magical cue. In that transformative instant, Robbins describes it as if she just went hands-off, a metaphor for releasing her mental and emotional grip. This immediate, conscious shift allowed her to instantly surrender to what was authentically happening. In that moment, creating an immediate and undeniable sense of peace and ease, miraculously replacing her internal emotional turmoil with a quiet, internal calm. The realization was striking. The fight was internal, and ending it was as simple as choosing to let go. This concept resonates deeply because, as Robbins astutely points out, every single one of us, to varying degrees, grapples with deeply ingrained controlling behaviors, or persistent obsessive thoughts. The let them theory serves as an invaluable, vital self-check mechanism, a powerful internal alarm that prevents our innate human desire for control from paradoxically controlling us. Our pervasive attempts to control others or to obsessively ruminate about situations that are inherently beyond our direct influence are incredibly draining. Consider a myriad of common scenarios that spark this internal struggle. Friends embarking on an exciting trip without you, a beloved family member or friend dating someone you vehemently disapprove of, facing the daunting reality of job layoffs, or a large company making decisions that fundamentally conflict with your personal values or interests. The overwhelming, undeniable truth is that your worry, your endless internal monologues, your countless conversations with others, and your fierce internal battles about these external events ultimately do nothing to change them. They only serve to consume your most precious energy, deplete your mental reserves, and severely diminish your inner peace. The act of dropping the sword, truly letting go and radically accepting what is, rather than fighting it, proves to be profoundly liberating, paving the way for a deeper sense of well-being. To further elucidate the profound simplicity and far-reaching implications of this concept, Robbins introduces a powerful, memorable analogy borrowed from the distinguished psychologist Dr. Amy Johnson, the vivid image of the tiny boat paddling upstream. When you find yourself in the throes of control mode, whether it's attempting to manage another person's highly personal choices, demanding that a particular situation be different from its current reality, or endlessly worrying and ruminating about things that are truly beyond your direct influence, Robbins invites you to imagine yourself in a tiny, fragile boat, furiously paddling against a strong, relentless current. This act of paddling upstream is inherently and unequivocally exhausting. It is a constant uphill fight, a perpetual struggle against the natural flow of life. It generates immense internal resistance, deep-seated frustration, and an escalating, paralyzing sense of being utterly out of control. Your emotions quickly rev up. Your anxiety mounts to dizzying heights, and despite all your Herculean effort, you make agonizingly little, if any, progress against the overwhelming and impersonal flow of reality. This, precisely, is the uncomfortable, draining feeling of trying to control other people or uncontrollable circumstances. Dr. Johnson's solution, which perfectly mirrors and reinforces the core tenets of the let them theory, is both simple and profoundly liberating. Let go and surrender. Visualize the immediate act of dropping the oars into the water. What happens instinctively to the boat when you consciously release your desperate grip on the oars? It immediately and effortlessly turns around, and instead of fighting the current, it begins to float smoothly and without resistance downstream, carried gently by the natural flow of things. This act of surrender, this profound willingness to let go, creates an immediate and palpable sense of peace and ease. It doesn't imply indifference or a lack of care. It means you are no longer actively fighting an unwinnable battle against reality. Does it truly, profoundly matter if a group of teenagers decides to go to a casual taco place before their prom in the pouring rain? Perhaps not. In fact, such an unconventional and slightly chaotic choice might ironically become the most memorable and cherished part of their entire prom experience, a story they will recount with laughter for years to come. The critical realization here is that we, as humans, often waste an astronomical amount of energy, time, and mental capacity trying to control trivial or fundamentally uncontrollable things. This precious energy, previously squandered on futile attempts at external control, could be channeled into far more constructive, peaceful, and self-serving pursuits. The let them theory acts as a powerful, transformative lever, enabling you to consciously pull back from this exhausting battle allowing you to float harmoniously with life's current, thereby inviting an abundance of peace, ease, and authentic love into every facet of your existence. The underlying reasons for our pervasive controlling nature are complex, deeply ingrained, and often subconscious. Yet a clear understanding of these drivers is absolutely crucial for effectively applying the let them theory in a meaningful and sustainable way. Robbins identifies three primary interconnected drivers that fuel our need for control: anxiety and perceived love. Our seemingly benign, yet often detrimental controlling behavior is frequently a deeply ingrained manifestation of anxiety. It stems from a desire to predict, manage, and mitigate perceived threats or uncertainties. For instance, parents, with the best of intentions, might inadvertently become overbearing due to profound fears about their children's future, an overwhelming desire for them to succeed beyond their own achievements, or a deep-seated discomfort with the inherent uncertainty of navigating life's complex challenges. This constant pushing, meticulous micromanaging, and endless worrying is often consciously or unconsciously perceived by the controller as an ultimate form of love, care, or protection. I'm looking out for your best interest, for what's good for you. However, while undeniably well-intentioned and born from a place of genuine concern, this suffocating behavior often paradoxically hinders the very people it seeks to protect, impeding their natural development, fostering dependence, and ultimately stifling their autonomy and organic growth. The let them theory courageously encourages recognizing this anxious, fear-driven push to control, and then consciously choosing to step back, thereby allowing others the vital space and freedom to live their own lives, make their own choices, and navigate their own learning curves. This shift allows for a more authentic and less strained expression of love. Distraction, focusing on others instead of self. It is an often unacknowledged psychological truth that it is significantly, almost effortlessly, easier to focus our attention on other people's lives, their problems, and their choices than it is to confront, manage, and ultimately take responsibility for our own internal struggles, insecurities, and unaddressed needs. We cunningly trick ourselves into believing a fundamental delusion that if we can just manage or control others, we will magically gain a coveted sense of control over our own chaotic lives. This, however, is a profound and ultimately self-defeating illusion. The stark reality is that you cannot genuinely control other people. While you might temporarily attempt to manipulate them through various means, guilt, shame, excessive flattery, or even subtle coercion, genuine, lasting control over another's will or actions is fundamentally impossible. The only person you can truly, legitimately control is yourself. Your reactions, your choices, your thoughts, and your responses. Every single time you consciously and deliberately apply the let them theory, you immediately and powerfully reverse the outward focus of control that was previously aimed at everyone else. Instead, you powerfully redirect that potent energy inward, placing the emphasis squarely back on your own actions, your own feelings, your own responsibilities, and your own capacity for self-mastery. For a clear example, if you find yourself feeling deeply hurt or excluded because friends chose to go away without you, instead of obsessively ruminating about their actions, their motives, or their perceived slight, the let them theory profoundly prompts you to ask a liberating question. If this bothers me so much, what do I need to do to be more proactive about cultivating and nurturing my friendships? How can I initiate connections or plan gatherings? This crucial shift transforms the focus from external blame and futile attempts at manipulation to potent internal agency and self-empowered action. Distraction from uncomfortable truths, discomfort with uncertainty, Our ingrained controlling behavior and persistent, often intrusive, obsessive thoughts frequently serve as a powerful and highly effective distraction from uncomfortable realities, unresolved internal issues, or our own profound discomfort with inherent uncertainty. Robbins shares a deeply personal and illustrative example involving her son's prom experience in their new town. Her frantic, almost desperate attempts to control seemingly trivial details like dinner plans were not, at their deepest level, truly about the type of tacos or the pouring rain. Instead, they were a subconscious manifestation of her unacknowledged sadness and profound discomfort with the unfamiliarity of her new environment. It was a veiled expression of her grief over the loss of her deeply established community and the comfortable routine she had left behind. When she courageously applied the "let them" theory, she was able to consciously drop the trivial need for external control. This act of surrender created the necessary space for her to finally address the deeper, more painful truth that was lurking beneath the surface, her genuine feelings of sadness and her longing for her old life. When you stubbornly insist that things should be a certain way or that others must act differently to align with your preferences, you are, at a fundamental level, resisting the ever-changing, often unpredictable flow of reality. The "let them" theory compassionately compels you to step back from this futile resistance and ask a liberating question. What truth am I actively avoiding here? What discomfort with uncertainty am I trying to manage through control? It gently encourages you to lean into the inherent ambiguity of life rather than fighting it, ultimately leading to greater self-awareness, profound emotional peace, and a more authentic relationship with reality. The practical application of the "let them" theory spans three specific, powerful, and interconnected domains, offering a comprehensive approach to releasing control. Detachment, using the "let them" theory to detach from emotional and mental struggle. This is perhaps the most immediate, palpable, and profoundly impactful application of the "let them" theory. It directly addresses the internal turmoil we generate when reality deviates from our mental blueprint of how things should be. When you find yourself emotionally or mentally spiraling, caught in a whirlpool of frustration, resentment, or obsessive rumination due to others' actions, unexpected events, or unfulfilled expectations, the powerful directive is simply to let them. This is not an act of indifference or a call to suppress your emotions. Rather, it is a sophisticated form of radical acceptance that strategically cuts through self-inflicted turmoil. It acknowledges the emotion, but denies it the fuel of your engagement. Robbins shares the universally relatable scenario of attending a wedding and, upon checking the seating chart, discovering you're inexplicably seated at a table far away from your closest friends, perhaps even with distant relatives you barely know. The immediate, almost reflexive reaction is often a surge of hurt, bewilderment, and a strong desire to make the bride and groom wrong for their perceived oversight. However, engaging in this internal struggle, bemoaning your seating arrangement, casting longing glances across the dance floor, or constructing elaborate, often self-pitying narratives about why you've been excluded, does nothing to change where you are physically sitting. More importantly, it profoundly diminishes your ability to genuinely enjoy the celebration. It only serves to generate internal emotional chaos, effectively robbing you of any potential joy in the moment. The "let them" theory here offers a simple yet profoundly liberating directive. Let them. Let the bride and groom make their choices for their wedding. It is, after all, their day. Let your friends sit where they are assigned. Their placement does not define your worth or the quality of your friendship. This doesn't imply you suppress your initial feelings of disappointment or hurt. Instead, you acknowledge them. I feel a bit disappointed about the seating. And then, crucially, you consciously choose not to feed them. You release the mental and emotional engagement that fuels the spiraling. The immense power lies in the liberating realization that your emotional turmoil, however intense, does not serve you. It does not and cannot alter the external reality of the seating chart. By metaphorically dropping the oars in this situation, by releasing your mental grip on the expectation, you immediately reclaim your internal peace, a far more valuable asset than any preferred table. This principle extends seamlessly to a myriad of everyday scenarios that often trigger our controlling instincts. A friend taking an exciting trip without inviting you? Let them. Perhaps they genuinely needed solo time, or it was a spontaneous decision not meant as a slight. Or an airline boarding passengers from the back of the plane, despite your perceived optimal boarding strategy? Let them. Does it truly impact my flight experience in a significant way? The fundamental key is to develop the discerning ability to distinguish between situations that genuinely necessitate your assertive action, e.g., a real boundary violation, an injustice, and those that merely trigger your ingrained controlling instincts, anxieties, or unexamined expectations. If you find yourself getting yourself worked up about something that is fundamentally beyond your control or influence, the let them theory becomes your immediate, powerful antidote. It is an act of deep, compassionate self-care, a conscious choice to prioritize your emotional peace over the pointless expenditure of emotional energy. Robbins provides a particularly poignant example of her parents not visiting her in Vermont for years. Initially, she was deeply hurt and upset, fueling her efforts to control the situation through veiled suggestions and unexpressed expectations. However, by consciously applying let them, by releasing her attachment to their visiting on her terms, she opened a dialogue that ultimately revealed a deep-seated childhood trauma in her mother related to the state of Vermont, entirely unrelated to Robbins herself. This act of giving her parents the space and freedom to process their own feelings and come to terms with their past allowed the real issue to surface, ultimately leading to them visiting on their own terms. This powerfully illustrates how letting go of control can paradoxically create the very space for positive, authentic outcomes, simply by allowing others to be their true selves. Room to grow. Using the let them theory to let people fail and take responsibility, this application of the let them theory can often be the most challenging, particularly for individuals with strong, nurturing, caretaking, or rescuing tendencies. It involves a deliberate, conscious act of stepping back and allowing others, whether children, friends, partners, or colleagues, the crucial space to experience the natural consequences of their own choices. This includes allowing them to make mistakes, to struggle, and yes, even to fail, knowing that these experiences, however uncomfortable, are often the most potent catalysts for genuine personal growth and the development of self-sufficiency. The core idea here is rooted in the profound understanding that true, lasting personal development often stems directly from learning through direct experience, including the often unpleasant lessons gleaned from mistakes and setbacks. Robbins references a crucial, almost counterintuitive lesson from her son's school. If a child forgets their packed lunch, the school policy was explicitly not to bring it to them. The underlying pedagogical principle is that the sting of forgetting, the direct and immediate consequence of not having lunch, serves as an incredibly powerful teacher. It naturally prompts the child to develop internal systems, responsible habits, and personal accountability for remembering their belongings. Conversely, consistently rescuing them while seemingly loving and protective in the short term paradoxically, robs them of this crucial learning opportunity, subtly fostering dependence and making them weaker and more reliant on external intervention rather than internal resilience. This transformative principle extends seamlessly to adult relationships and significant life challenges where the stakes can be much higher. Application: deadlines. If someone in your life, a friend, a child, a mentee, forgets a critical application deadline for a job, a scholarship, or an important program, the let them theory suggests, difficult as it may be, to let them experience the consequence. While undoubtedly difficult to witness their disappointment or frustration, this often leads to a far more robust and deeply ingrained understanding of personal accountability and the importance of organization than any amount of nagging or rescuing could achieve. The lesson learned from a missed opportunity is often far more impactful than a missed lunch. Addiction. This is perhaps the hardest and most emotionally wrenching application of the let them theory. If a loved one is struggling with addiction and is not genuinely ready to seek or accept help, the challenging directive is to let them. As Robbins powerfully states, drawing from vast experience in recovery communities, nobody gets sober until they're ready to. Forcing someone into rehabilitation against their true will or genuine commitment often results in immediate relapse upon discharge. True, sustainable help can only be effectively offered and received when the individual has reached a point of genuine readiness. This does not imply abandoning them. Rather, it means releasing your overwhelming need to control their recovery, maintaining your support and love, but standing by to offer tangible help only when they explicitly express their readiness to engage in the difficult work of recovery. This is about respecting their autonomy and their journey, even if it is painful to witness. Financial irresponsibility. The detrimental cycle of constantly bailing out a financially irresponsible loved one, as Robbins describes with her brother-in-law's experience, invariably prevents them from learning from their own mistakes and developing financial literacy. The sting of genuine financial hardship, experiencing bounced checks, facing a lien on a house, or dealing with debt collectors can be an incredibly powerful catalyst for fundamental change. When you continuously rescue someone from the natural consequences of their financial choices, you inadvertently teach them that they are not truly accountable, fostering a cycle of dependence rather than capability. The profound act of stepping back, even when it causes short-term discomfort, allows them to confront reality and develop their own solutions. People-pleasing and over-functioning. For individuals who habitually engage in people-pleasing behaviors or constantly over-function for others, e.g., always hosting holidays, meticulously organizing all social events, taking on an undue amount of extra work at the office, or perpetually fixing other people's problems, the let them theory serves as a powerful and essential countermeasure. The directive is clear: let them do it themselves. This means allowing your kids to do their own laundry, even if it results in dreaded color bleeds or shrunken clothes, knowing they will eventually learn to care about the outcome. Let your brother host the holidays, even if his planning is less meticulous than yours. Let your friends take the initiative to make plans. Let your colleagues manage their own job responsibilities. This powerful act of stepping back not only significantly lightens your personal burden and reduces your own stress, but also fundamentally empowers others to step up, take personal responsibility, and crucially, discover their own capabilities and strengths that they might not have recognized if you were always intervening. Every single time you rescue someone, you subtly, implicitly tell them that they are not capable, thereby robbing them of their growth and diminishing their inherent strength. Allowing others to fail To fall, to struggle, and to do things their own way fosters their genuine development and significantly reduces your own unnecessary effort and emotional exhaustion. Authenticity, using the let them theory to let people be themselves and who they're not. This is arguably the most profound, most deeply personal, and often the most challenging application of the let them theory, particularly within intimate relationships. It directly confronts a pervasive and often painful pitfall in human connection. Entering and sustaining relationships, be they romantic, platonic, or even professional, not with the person as they authentically are in the present moment, but rather with their potential, the idealized version of who we believe they could be, or who we desperately wish they would become. We frequently become so fixated, even obsessed, with this imagined future version of another person that we expend vast, unsustainable amounts of energy trying to control, manipulate, coerce, or fix them. This fixation manifests in myriad ways. Constant griping, subtle nagging, thinly veiled criticisms, or more overt attempts to change their fundamental behaviors, their physical appearance, their personal habits, or their life ambitions. Robbins powerfully emphasizes the inherent pain and damaging dynamics of this approach. For the other person, being on the receiving end of constant, relentless attempts to change them, being perpetually told, directly or indirectly, don't wear those shoes, you need to lose weight, why are you always doing that thing? Or you should be more ambitious, feels profoundly suffocating, deeply unloving, and utterly exhausting. It communicates a fundamental, painful rejection of who they are in this moment, creating resentment and distance. For you, the controller, when your mental and emotional energy is perpetually consumed by focusing on someone's potential or what you intensely dislike about them, you are, tragically, not truly present with the person as they authentically are. You are, in essence, trapped in a relationship with your own idealized projections, your own unmet expectations, and your own endless disappointments, rather than engaging with the tangible reality of the individual before you. This persistent, mental preoccupation creates immense distraction, preventing you from addressing a far more fundamental and liberating question. Am I actually with someone I genuinely want to be with exactly as they are right now? It perpetuates a cycle of self-delusion and futile attempts at transformation that drain your energy and prevent true intimacy. The let them theory here offers a courageous and deeply liberating act of honesty. Let them be themselves and let them be who they're not. This means consciously giving another person the profound freedom to exist authentically, with all their inherent quirks, their unique habits, their personal preferences, and their own chosen path, entirely without your constant nagging need for them to conform to your ideals or expectations. When you provide this profound freedom, a powerful, often uncomfortable, yet ultimately liberating truth emerges. You finally, unequivocally, see who they really are. This newfound clarity, while sometimes confronting or even painful, if the reality doesn't match your desires, is absolutely essential. It allows you to make a clear, informed, and authentic choice about whether this relationship with this actual person, not their potential, truly serves your needs, aligns with your values, and brings you genuine happiness. It effectively stops the destructive cycle of self-delusion and futile attempts at transformation, paving the way for either deeper acceptance or conscious separation. This principle extends to specific, often challenging, behaviors within relationships. Jealousy. Jealousy, at its root, is often an intense attempt to control another person's relationships, their time, or their emotional connections with others. If you find yourself consumed by jealousy because your partner spends time with their children from a previous marriage, enjoys golfing with friends, or maintains close friendships with people of the same sex, This often signals a deeper fear or insecurity within you, a fear that their love for you is somehow diminished or threatened by these other connections. Your controlling behavior, however, paradoxically backfires, pushing them away and eroding the very trust you crave. The let them theory powerfully suggests, let them. Let them have their friendships. Let them have their time with their children. Let them engage in activities that bring them joy. This is not about passive acceptance of perceived threats. It is an act of love, trust, and profound acceptance that ultimately fosters more genuine love, deeper connection, and greater intimacy in the relationship. By actively releasing the grip of jealousy, you become truly present to love, rather than operating from a place of scarcity, fear, and control. This shift allows you to receive the love that is genuinely offered, rather than pushing it away with your own insecurities. Managing others' emotions and opinions. A common, yet highly destructive, relational habit is trying to control what someone else feels or thinks. Phrases like, "Don't be mad," "You shouldn't feel that way," or "That's a stupid opinion," are direct attempts to invalidate another's internal experience and impose your own emotional rules. This is a direct path to the breakdown of trust and the ultimate end of a relationship. One of the greatest acts of generosity, compassion, and authentic love that a human being can offer another is simply to listen to their story, to witness their feelings without judgment, and to validate their experience. I hear that you feel hurt, angry, frustrated. That makes sense given what you're saying. The let them theory profoundly allows you to let them have those feelings. This liberates you from the immense, impossible responsibility of fixing or rescuing their emotions, effectively ending the exhausting emotional tug-of-war. When another person is given the safe and validating space to freely express how they are feeling, whether it's anger, frustration, sadness, or a sense of being wronged, something truly amazing happens. They feel seen, heard, and loved for who they are in that moment, with all their complexities. This fosters deeper connection, reduces defensiveness, and paradoxically diminishes your own need to control their emotional landscape. You learn the invaluable skill of being able to observe others' emotional distress without immediately attaching your own hooks to it, allowing feelings to rise and fall naturally. Crucial caveats. When not to apply the let them theory. While the let them theory is undoubtedly transformative and profoundly liberating, it is crucial to understand that it is not a universal panacea or a blanket excuse for inaction. Robbins explicitly and emphatically outlines 3 critical situations where you must not let them, and instead you must courageously step up, assert yourself, and take decisive control. Dangerous situations, harm to self or others. This is the clearest and most non-negotiable caveat. If someone is actively engaging in genuinely dangerous behavior that poses an immediate threat of harm to themselves or to others, e.g., attempting to drive while severely intoxicated, engaging in self-harm, or exhibiting aggressive behavior that could lead to physical violence, you absolutely, unequivocally do not let them. In these urgent scenarios, direct intervention is not only permissible but morally and ethically necessary for safety and well-being. This principle fundamentally supersedes the general application of letting go, as it involves the protection of life and safety, advocating for your rights and needs, self-respect. You should never let someone arbitrarily determine what they will pay you for your labor, your services, or your intellectual property. Similarly, you should not allow someone to continuously undervalue your contributions, exploit your generosity, or dismiss your legitimate personal or professional needs. This applies directly to critical situations such as negotiating your salary, defining the terms of a business deal, asserting your intellectual property rights, or advocating for fair treatment in any context. In these scenarios, you must decisively step up, clearly ask for what you need, articulate your value, and assert your fundamental rights. This is not about attempting to control another person's inherent nature. Rather, it is a vital act of self-respect, self-advocacy, and establishing healthy boundaries for your own well-being and equitable treatment. Continuous boundary crossing, self-preservation. If you have taken the crucial step of clearly defining and explicitly communicating your personal boundaries, those essential limits that protect your physical, emotional, and mental well-being, and someone is consistently, repeatedly, and disrespectfully crossing those established boundaries, you do not let them continue to do so. This is not a situation for passive acceptance. Holding your boundaries is an essential act of self-preservation and a profound demonstration of self-respect. It requires assertive action, consistent reinforcement, and clear communication to enforce the limits you have meticulously set for your own health and peace of mind. This is not about trying to control the other person's behavior. Rather, it is about powerfully controlling your response to their behavior and rigorously protecting your own space and well-being from further encroachment. Practical tools for applying the let them theory to effectively and consistently implement the transformative principles of the let them theory in your daily life. Mel Robbins suggests 3 powerful, self-coaching questions. These questions serve as immediate interventions designed to redirect your focus and provide clarity whenever you feel the familiar urge to control or when emotional distress begins to escalate. What am I afraid of? This profound question forces you to dig beneath the surface-level frustration, annoyance, or perceived slight and directly identify the deeper, often unconscious fear that is truly driving your need for control. Often, once articulated, these fears can appear remarkably absurd or disproportionate to the actual situation, e.g., I'm afraid my son's prom dress will get wet and be ruined, or I'm afraid the airline's boarding process will lead to a chaotic flight. Confronting these fears often reveals their irrationality, making it easier to release the grip of control. However, in more serious or emotionally charged situations, e.g., a loved one grappling with addiction, the underlying fear, e.g., I'm afraid they're going to die or end up on the street, might be entirely valid and deeply unsettling. In such cases, Robbins suggests a crucial follow-up question: is it true? Often, the honest answer is you don't know for certain, or it's a possibility but not a certainty. This realization highlights the inherent futility of attempting to control an unknowable or unpredictable outcome, paradoxically allowing you to release the grip of anxiety and embrace a more grounded reality. Whose business am I in? This is a simple yet incredibly powerful boundary-setting question that immediately clarifies your focus. When you find yourself micromanaging, constantly complaining about others' choices, or feeling profoundly wronged by external circumstances that are not directly within your purview, you are, by definition, in someone else's business. Your primary and most effective focus should always be on your own business, your own feelings, your own actions, your own responsibilities, and what you can genuinely do to affect your own well-being. For example, if you feel deeply left out and hurt because friends gathered for an event without including you, the let them theory immediately prompts you to shift your focus from being in their business, obsessing about why they didn't invite you, to being squarely in your business, asking yourself, if this bothers me so much, what can I do to be more proactive about nurturing my friendships? How can I initiate connections or plan gatherings? This critical shift profoundly redirects your energy from futile external control to empowered, self-directed action, leading to far more satisfying and sustainable results. What feels more like peace? This serves as the ultimate guiding principle when navigating situations that trigger your controlling instinct. When faced with a choice between attempting to control a situation, an endeavor that often feels like gripping, ramping up your emotions, or revving up your internal turmoil, and simply letting go, pause and honestly ask yourself which path genuinely leads to greater emotional peace. Does desperately trying to force your kids to eat a certain way feel like peace? No, it often feels like an exhausting exercise in control and power struggles. Does endlessly complaining or obsessing about not being invited somewhere truly feel like peace? No, it often feels like corrosive internal turmoil. Does genuinely allowing your partner to choose whether they go to the gym with you without your subtle prodding feel like peace? Yes, it often does. The directive is clear: always move towards peace. When you feel yourself getting emotionally charged, when the impulse to grip or control arises, consciously take your hands off, drop the oars, and let them do what they are going to do. Then, consciously and deliberately, redirect that liberated energy to what you can do, which is always to cultivate your own internal peace, your own well-being, and your own happiness. In essence, Mel Robbins' The Let Them theory, as articulated in her powerful book, is a profound and transformative lesson in radical liberation. It is about deeply understanding that trying to control the uncontrollable, be it other people's choices, life's unpredictable circumstances, or your own persistent obsessive thoughts, is a fundamentally draining and ultimately fruitless endeavor. This relentless pursuit of external control paradoxically robs you of your joy, dissipates your vital energy, and erodes your inner serenity. By actively and courageously choosing to let them, whether it's people, situations, or your own internal mental chatter, you powerfully release yourself from the exhausting, self-inflicted emotional tug-of-war. This act of letting go is not apathy. It is a conscious, strategic, and deeply loving act of self-preservation that empowers you to prioritize your emotional peace above the tempting, yet ultimately illusory, promise of control. It creates invaluable space, allowing others the freedom to be their authentic selves, to learn from their own experiences, and to grow according to their own timelines and lessons. Simultaneously, this profound release frees you to focus with renewed vigor and clarity on your own life, your own choices, your own responsibilities, and your own authentic path to genuine happiness. The ultimate invaluable gift of the Let Them theory is the profound peace, boundless ease, and effortless flow that washes over you when you finally and wisely choose to drift harmoniously with the current of life, rather than perpetually battling upstream against it. It is a powerful blueprint for a life lived with less struggle and more serenity.